We are ready to go. Okay. Welcome everyone to, my goodness, the sixth Black Excellence in Tech. I am your host, Jelani. I am joined by some very esteemed panelists, some very, very, very proud members of the Black Excellence Club for sure. And I can't wait for you guys to get to know them. Again, in the chat, make sure to hit hosts and panelists button. If it's highlighted blue, drop down to everyone, just so we can all see each other's comments. Okay, with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right in. Let's go through intros. I know we did intros, guys, earlier off camera, but we're gonna do them now. Let's do some intros. Kedasha, I will start with you. You can say just your name. You can do your name, where you work, your position, and then we'll just move on from there because we're going to get real deep into you guys' professional background throughout the panel.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Kedasha, and I work as a developer advocate at a cloud security company called Lacework. If you don't know what a developer advocate is, it's a software engineer who enjoys creating content and connecting with people. That's the best way I can explain it. I've been working at my company for 2 whole months. But before that, I worked as a front-end engineer in the fintech space. And happy to be here with you all. And I'll pass it on to Maxwell.
Hey, people. My name's Max, or Maxwell, whatever you want to call me. I live in Tysons Corner, Virginia. That's about 15 minutes outside DC. Anyone in DC represent? I'm trying to kind of 15 minutes out, whatever. I graduated the program back in 2021 in May. I had one heck of a job search that lasted me about 4 to 5 months. Now I work for a security firm called Hypershift Technologies. And before that, I actually got that job from my former work of employment, which I was working at a nightclub. And during the pandemic, when I got laid off from both my day and night job, I got my certification, and one thing led to another, and I was able to land a role because I knew the right people. And when I'm not working during the day, I'm also a technical coach for Flatiron School as well. And that's the gamut. Up next.
Eyamba.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Eyamba. I am a product manager at Google. I currently manage 2 products over there, Cloud Trace and Cloud Error Reporting. Prior to joining Google, I was a product manager at another company, an energy company in Houston, Texas. I'm super excited about joining this forum. I was inspired to become a technologist by attending a forum like this. So joining communities like this and sharing my knowledge is a passion of mine. So super excited to take all the questions and sort of demystify some of the stuff around, tech careers and the tech space, and just happy to connect.
Nice. Eyamba, I'm going to start with you with this first question because we're kind of in this unique position that everyone on this call, excluding me, is a career changer, right? And that hasn't happened in our Black Excellence in techs in the past. So Eyamba, you said that you got your sort of motivation from a forum like this. So prior to going to Flatiron School, what were you doing?
Sure, that's an awesome question. And please, picking on me first doesn't imply any sort of priorities here. It's a good question. Before joining Flatiron School, I was what we call a process engineer. I used to build software applications to monitor sort of underwater production systems in the oil and gas industry. And I obviously was writing code and working with other software developers, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to own more of the strategy and overall direction of a product. I had colleagues and coworkers who were sort of in that space, but it was sort of a mystery to me, right? I used to hear them throw around terms and terminologies like, AI and data science, and I wanted to sort of figure out what that was. So obviously I I signed up to join Flatiron, took the data science course just to get like that experience of like, okay, what's behind the curtains here, right? What does that actually mean? And it was quite the pleasure. I learned a lot while I was here, and I sort of took that and as a tool in my arsenal and went back into my career. And I had much more of a broader understanding of what the discussions were about, and was able to have sort of intelligent conversations when they popped up to demonstrate my capabilities, my competence to sort of like my peers and my colleagues, right? And that kind of let them know like, maybe this is a guy that we can actually assign more responsibility to. And I kind of made my intent known. This is something that, you know, we folks, we tend to struggle with. It's like, well, should I really say I want to do that? You know, but at some point I was just like, you know what? I mean, I want this, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And sort of spoke up and was happy to lucky and blessed to have like a mentor who was like, okay, I'll give you a shot to sort of like, you know, take on more responsibility. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah, for sure. And Maxwell, with you, you mentioned coming from the club background and the nightlife background. What was kind of that final straw that said, you know what, I'm gonna pivot careers and go to Flatiron School?
Long story short, getting laid off. And not
That'll do it. That'll do it.
It could be real. I mean,
Yeah.
I worked about 6 years, like starting in Charlotte, North Carolina, picking up DJing lessons. Then it just went from knowing people of people, people. Then I had some personal issues way back when, so I moved back up to DC. All I had was Uber and Uber Eats, and I'm just gonna look. I guess it was fate. I meet this one guy named Jeff Burns. He introduced me to this one other person named Will Galley. One thing led to another. He posted up on Facebook that he's looking for a light guy, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, not only am I going to have an opportunity to DJ, I'm gonna be learning another skill on the side, so I'm gonna be basically paying my dues.
Mhm.
And my first night there, apparently I did a really good light show, and they put me on payroll the next week, and I'm like, okay. And then 2 months later, they made me one of the house DJs, and for about 2 years, I had a pretty good run. Got like a day job working at a warehouse for a light company that did entertainment industry stuff all over the DC area. So I had a good day job. So the nightlife scene produced that for me, just a nice, decent job, and me focusing on my passions. And back in 2020, I told myself that I had to start making moves as a DJ so I can be like my peers, not just because I want to be like them, but it's either make it or break it. I was 29 years old. And March 2020 decided to get that answer for me, like, ain't gonna happen. So on my 30th birthday, the governor of Virginia just reapplied the restrictions of COVID-19, and that was like, that's it, cool. I gotta figure something else out. I'm like, okay, well, what's one thing I'm good at that I remember? Now, turns out I was really good at tech. I was able to help people. I was working in the background. A lot of DJs didn't have the software necessary to function with the equipment that was there, even though it was industry standard. A lot of people going in and out were ignorant or were stuck with what they knew. So it was my job to get everything working and ready on the go with almost no time at all. And I was like, okay, I'm good with computers. Let's see what I can do with that. And this one person I used to work with, her name is Millie. She actually went to a different boot camp as a software development, and I got into coding. And since I suck at math, I'm like, okay, coding's not a thing, so let's do something else. And then I picked up, well, there's one thing I do like doing, which I did whenever I had a chance, was martial arts, Muay Thai. I got in it for self-defense and also to protect my friends if I had to. So let's find something in cybersecurity. Turns out it was up my alley. And I started picking up some books, audiobooks, and downloaded some few apps to give myself some just lessons about it. And I found Flatiron, and I told them what I did before this, and they were surprised what I did, like the proactiveness. And one thing led to another. I got accepted on the spot. And the rest, as many say, is history.
Nice. And Kedasha, you probably have the least technical background in terms of your origin story, which is pretty crazy. So why don't you tell us about a little bit about like what was the motivation for you getting into tech, and what you were doing prior to making the pivot?
Yeah, I was definitely not technical. So I worked as a social worker before I came across coding randomly on Instagram, just scrolling and trying to enjoy some posts and stories. And I saw somebody say, "Hey, I taught myself how to do coding in 7 months or 9 months, and now I'm earning six figures, and it's amazing." And I was so taken aback by the post because at that time in my life, it was like 2018, I was just starting to learn about personal finance and like the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early movement. And I was like, you say what? You can retire early? How do we do this? And one of the key fundamentals of that movement is dramatically increasing your income. So when I came across that post, I was actively trying to figure out how I'm gonna make this money. You know that sound on TikTok where it's just like, I gotta make this money by tomorrow. Or that was literally me. Like, I gotta figure out how to make this money by tomorrow. And so when I saw that post, I was just like, okay, let's figure out what six figures is, what coding is, and what software engineering is. And I fell down the rabbit hole of free code camp, code academy, going to a boot camp, crying through the boot camp, and hustling to find a job. And that's my story. Honestly, it wasn't because I enjoy technology or I like technology. It's because I saw the Instagram post, then I googled software engineering salaries, I saw the money, and I was just like, let's go, because I really needed to dramatically increase my income so I wasn't poor anymore. I was just tired honestly.
It's just the honesty. It's just I mean, I love the honesty. It's like that's look, and you know, in the chat they loving it too. Like it's absolutely. I love the fact that you guys all came to that the conclusions that you did, all from very different positions, right? So I think of like Kedasha and Max, like you both coming from relatively, you know, Max, I know you had some technical acumen at some point earlier on in your career, but like you guys coming from like making these hard pivots, right? Kadesha, I'll come right back to you. Was there anything that you took from your prior career that helped you in your current one now?
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of times there's a misconception that to be a software engineer, you need to be really good at mathematics or have come from like a prestigious school in order to like earn that really good salary. And it's just like, no, that is not true. If you can solve problems, if you can think critically, and if you can communicate with people, that's what software engineers do every day. Is it difficult? Yes. But can you do it? Yes. Because we're Black people living in America. We know what hard is. And so if we can navigate that situation, I strongly believe that we can navigate any career in tech. And so for me specifically, coming from a social work background, I am very good at communicating. I'm very good at connecting with people. I'm very good at, keeping up with deadlines and making sure that things get done smoothly. And I'm very and extremely resourceful. And as an engineer, you have to be all those things while coding and solving business problems with programming languages. And so I like to tell people, do not discredit your previous background as a professional, because all those skills you have, that's what's going to make you stand out among the pack of engineers that's coming out of college. And that's what's going to make you become like your best self. I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, like don't discredit your previous skills.
Yeah, transferable skills. Max, what about you coming from the nightlife? Did you feel like anything was transferable from what you were doing prior into now cybersecurity?
The networking component, that was the major thing. Like one of the main reasons I got into DJing was, well, it may not seem like it, but I am an introvert. And I got into DJing years ago because I wanted to give myself a reason to go out and work on my social skills. And I have to say, I think it turned out pretty well. But it was also an opportunity just to put myself out there, see what the world had in store. Because I'll be honest with everyone here. I have severe ADHD. I've been on all kind of medications my entire life. My parents, or my adopted parents, I'm actually adopted, did everything they could to help me, but psychologist said, hey, put them on this, put them on that. And like I said, I am absolutely horrible at math. It's hard for me to spell. I didn't even talk until I was 4 years old, and you wouldn't think that hearing me right now. But I had a lot of struggles in school. I was barely a C average student. So I went into the nightlife scene because it was a good way to start somewhere. And it taught me to actually look out for myself, and it taught me inadvertently more street smarts. So that's one of the things that I took from that. It's just knowing that even though I'm in a position like this now, never forget where you came from, and never forget your street smarts, because that's one of the reasons why I got here today. And another thing I could take from it is just learning to think on your feet, because I had to think in like some of the I can't even talk right now, in the smallest time span ever. So, and in this scene, you have to be in that scene, in that scene, you have to be creative to troubleshoot. And here, troubleshooting and being creative is almost like given. You have to be, or in this case, kind of sort of have the mind of a hacker, ethnical hacker, just to clear the air. But yeah, that's mainly my street smarts and my networking skills are the main one of the takeaways I got from that, because I still do that to this day. Networking, getting to know people, not just like, oh, it's going to take me somewhere, but it's also fun getting to know people. And also just learning about their stories as well, and just learning from their knowledge and their experience as well. And I still keep in contact with people, with my friends in the scene, because I'm still learning from them. And there are times I'm going to probably still be DJing sometime in the near future as well. So
yeah. No, that's real. Speaking of networking, one of the things I love about this entire production, this entire event, is if you want to connect with people in the chat, please, folks in the chat, connect with each other. Throw your LinkedIn there if you want to connect with people. This is what this entire event is really about. So just taking a quick aside to say that if you want to connect with folks, like, please do connect in the chat. Eyamba, what I wanted to ask you was about, since you had a little bit of the technical skills sort of coming in, what were you really trying to gain from the experience, and how did that experience coming to Flatiron School then help get you to where you wanted to get to? Because I mean, your skill set, as you mentioned, you had the coding background, you had the product, you had that technical acumen. And, data science is very math, very machine model-y, machine learning and stuff like that. So what did you take from that experience that you then applied to your new role?
Great question. So if you step back a little bit, I think it's about having a posture of being inquisitive and seeking knowledge. The challenge about this tech ecosystem, and why it almost seems like it's very hard for Black people to penetrate, is that these ecosystems have a certain language, right? People speak in sort of like terms that if you're not used to that, it might sound as if you're speaking a different language. And so for you to be able to penetrate that, you have to be able to communicate at the same pace. And that starts from knowing what they're referring to when they're talking, right? So for me, just from my own sort of like research, I figured out that this was a new field. There was a lot of hype and buzz surrounding it. It was sort of like a signal that you were, someone who belonged in the ecosystem of tech. So I wanted to know more, right? I wanted to understand what did this actually mean to my context, right? And I felt like, well, the Flatiron School offered me the quickest part to getting that knowledge, right? So there are two alternatives. Either you naturally grow up in that sort of line, i.e. you were a computer science grad, you went to all the, the Ivy League schools, and then you sort of got that formal training, or you can kind of like, adopt a scrappy mentality and fish for information yourself. Maxwell talked about reading cybersecurity books. Kedasha talked about just like pushing, talking to people, networking, sourcing for information, and then sort of adding on top these sort of informations that boot camps offer you, like Flatiron, to kind of help you round your skills as much as possible, to put forward a face to a potential employer that you actually know what you're talking about and you can actually deliver value in their organization. So for me, that was kind of what the Flatiron School gave to me. Like I said, another tool in my toolbox to be able to have those conversations and understand the context of what people were discussing, to be able to signal to folks in that sort of ecosystem that I could be a player in there, right? Because I had those language skills.
Man, that you started out with a bar. You said it's about having a posture of inquisitive. Like that is a bar, my friend.
Yeah, and I think that's, up until now, I try to search for information. I try to learn from people. I try to like, hey, Kedasha, what can I learn from you? What's that thing that's going to give me that edge, right? Because that's kind of the world in which we operate, right? If you don't know what's coming, you can't adjust yourself, right? You can't get yourself in the right position to take advantage of that when it comes. And you get that by, talking to people, networking, doing some research, and being generally inquisitive to source for information. Right? Yeah. And that's pretty much, the posture I took.
Nah, I love it, man. I love it. Kedasha, I'm gonna come to you with this one. I think you mentioned it earlier about Black people, and we are in Black excellence in tech. So we are Black excellence in tech. We are the living, breathing embodiment of it. Did the challenge of working in an environment where you didn't see a lot of Black representation, it's getting better. Let's acknowledge growth. It's getting better. It's not few and far between. And if you want to jump into any groups, any affinity groups, they are available. So I want to make sure, I want to always acknowledge progress. I even have Malcolm X on my shirt, right? I'm acknowledging progress, right? But also, I mean, let's be real. The reality is that it's still an environment where there's not a lot of you. And did that challenge of spending all these hours in an environment where there isn't a lot of you, did that cross your mind as you were positioning yourself in this career?
Honestly, no. I did not know there was such a huge diversity issue in tech. And I did not know that 3% of tech workers are Black. I honestly feel like if I knew those stats ahead of time, I probably would not have come into this industry, because as a social worker, I'm used to seeing everybody everywhere all the time. And so I'm not used to feeling like the odd man out. And I remember my first developer role, I moved to Wisconsin for that role. And if you don't know anything about Wisconsin, it is not the most colorful state. I'll put it that way. And I remember when I went to the office, January 2020, this was pre-COVID, when I went to the office and I was at lunch one day and I looked up and I saw like a sea, just like a sea of this white men. And I was just like, I got a panic attack because I've never experienced that before. So like, I'm Jamaican, I moved to Florida, and then I moved to Wisconsin. And so like, I've never seen that before. And it was very jarring. And it was very anxiety inducing. And I was just like, what did I do with my life? And then that's when I started to learn about the disparities in tech and how there aren't a lot of us in tech, and the challenges that we face in tech when we do get our foot in the industry. And so I purposed in my heart to make sure that I connected myself with people who were minorities like me. I assigned myself mentors who could help me navigate the space and also educate myself on how I can be a visible representation of people in the industry. And that's one of the main reasons I share content on Instagram. It's because I want people to see me in the space, being successful in the space, coming from a non-traditional background, and so that they can see themselves in me. Because I saw myself in another Black woman, and so like I want to carry that on. And so I try not to think about it too much, because if I think about it too much, it's very depressing, right? And there are a lot of tech companies who don't even have Black engineers, and I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't have Black engineers? What are you talking about? And it's just like, if you think about those things, and if you think about how difficult it is for us to navigate even the interview process sometimes, it's very depressing. But I try not to let that weigh me down. Instead, I try to be the bright light, to encourage people to get in here. Because like, even though there isn't a lot of diversity, there is so much money for us to be had. You know, there's so much economic prosperity in tech. And it is literally one of the only industries where you can go to a school for 9 months and get a job and earn a significant income and lift yourself out of poverty. And because of that reason, and because of how much money affects our lives, I want more people of color to get into the industry. So in short, I try not to think about it, but I'm very aware of it.
That's interesting that you said you might not have joined had you known the disparity. Max, for you, was this a thought at all? You know, the idea of working in an environment where you don't see a lot of representation, a lot of people that look like you?
Honestly, no, because like I said before, I'm adopted, but I'm actually adopted by a Caucasian family. So being around people of a different race, like I've been around people of a different race since day one. And I asked my adopted mother one day when I was 5, like, everyone else is white, why am I Black? And she explained it to me. But it wasn't until later in life, like when I was 13, she went into more detail. And when I got my driver's license, both my mom and dad sat me down about certain places I should go, certain places I should never go, how to carry myself as a Black kid in front of a cop if I ever got pulled over. And I mean, my dad one day just drove around all Mufasa style, showing me the world. And I was like, hey, what about that one open space over there? He's like, that's the countryside, Max. You must never go there. Like, it was like that.
Wow.
It was like that. I mean, growing up in that environment, like, I got everything I needed. With my ADHD, they did everything they could at the time to help me. But I started feeling the cons of growing up like that. And I'm not saying it was hard. The love was definitely in the house. But when I went into the real world, people would give me stares. Everyone would be like, oh, look what you're doing with that kid and stuff like that. And just, so getting stares and being treated like, just, I don't know, like some people just treat me like, oh, he's so cute. I'm like, they don't think you would pick up on it, but you do. And it does something to it. And I got used to it. And I just started, but it was hard to relate. It was, you couldn't really fit in where you were growing up. And I had adopted siblings as well, so I wasn't the only one that had felt this. But especially when I went out and met people of my own race, I couldn't relate to them back then. So being around people like white people or Caucasian, I'm trying to keep it PG-13 here, but it's just, it was difficult until now. But at the same time, it gave me a different perspective, because I grew up in an environment where people judged me no matter what I did, even the adopted family members did. Recently, some of them said like, yeah, we were kind of hard on you. And it wasn't because of my race, it's because ADHD, learning disabilities, nothing about me was anything like close to them genetically or relation-wise, but I got right off topic. But honestly, when I first went into this, I really didn't feel like I was completely psyched out. But at the same time, I do feel that feeling whenever I have meetings with certain people, or even in the real world. But it's just a feeling that I'm so used to. But I can differentiate who's an actual threat, and it's just like, I'm not really sure about that guy. But right. But it's just a norm for me, which it's a good thing, but sometimes kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of perspective, and honestly, it's just based on my mood.
Yeah. And this is why spaces like this, and this is why I love this event so much, because what I notice is that when you get 4 Black people all in this space like this, it feels there's a level of comfort, a little level of ease that is created with this environment, and it allows us to kind of speak pretty freely. You know, I joked with you guys off camera about it feeling like basically cousins talking at a barbecue about tech and people are just listening in. Like that's kind of the energy that I love that this event comes with. Eyamba, like, was it conscious for you, since working in tech for so long? Was it just something you got used to at a certain point where it's like, it is what it is? Like this is literally a fact of the work that I do.
Yeah, pretty much. But a long time ago, I asked myself, what is my goal? What am I trying to achieve for my family, for my community? You know, like, so when I answered those things, I moved past that. One of the things we have to realize, or I came to realize as a Black person, was that to achieve the things I needed to achieve, I needed partnerships with other sort of races, you know, to be able to achieve those things. But the only way to get those partnerships is to bring something to the table. So we have a lot. When you think about our Black icons, right? You think about people like Oprah Winfrey, for example. Well, Oprah is damn good at her job, but she understood how to maneuver in the corporate world to get her where she is today, to be able to have the resources to do the things she wanted to do. So a long time ago, I'm sure Oprah made a decision in her mind that, you know what, in this space that I'm going into, not a lot of people look like me. I'm going to be fine with that. I'm going to do the best I can, apply myself, and try to create partnerships that are going to serve me well. And that's honestly the sort of mentality that I've taken. You're right. I've sat in offices. I've been blessed to work in Europe, where, you know, it's not even a fact of like it's just like very limited Black people, and obviously also working in the sphere that I do, it's like one other Black person in the whole building, right? But I've had to, you know, maneuver in there. And there are a lot of good people out there who realize that, well, you know, it's kind of tough to be the lone Black person in there. And they want to know you. They want to know Jelani, man, this guy looks cool. I love his t-shirt. You know, he's got more swag than my, you know, like I want to get to know this guy, right? So I bring that to the table, right? But I also do a damn good job so they can be like, man, that guy, Jelani is the ish, you know, get to know Jelani. And if you can do that, it's sort of it becomes sort of like an advantage even for you to be able to accelerate. And then when you do that, you turn around and you pull a brother up, you pull a sister up, right? You build that good cred so that, you know, they can be like, well, you know, Jelani, I know Jelani. Jelani was awesome. All right, we'll bring you as well into the group to sort of join our organization. And that's the mentality I've taken up until this point. I've moved past that sort of being the only person, or to you know, set all that in my mind and move forward and use myself as a vehicle to, you know, make change in my environment.
There's a school of thought based on what you said. There's a school of thought that I've heard from folks who are displeased with the current iteration of a particular system, whether it be political, private, whatever. The school of thought is you can't change the game from the inside, right? You have to be able, you have to change it from the inside. So you have to play the game to change the game. And I guess it has to be that is 100% an individual choice and a declaration that you have to make internally, like you said, with Oprah, making that decision to have those types of allies and support, you know, future generations coming up behind her by sort of, for the most part, biting the bullet and kicking open the door. There's a question here that pivots a little bit, but I think it's a good question to address, which I think a lot of people have. Do you have a better chance for a position if you attend a four-year college or university to get a career in tech? And I suppose the alternative is going to like a boot camp. I'm a minority looking to get into this field. I'm just going to take a stab at this question just because most of the people that follow Flatiron School have a question similar to this. So I'm going to take a stab at this question. I asked this question to on the podcast with someone who works at Meta currently. He's self-taught. He didn't attend any boot camp or anything like that, and he was in marketing prior. And I asked, like, what's the secret? Like, what'd you do to get the interview and the job? He said mostly they did not care about my college experience, because he went to college. He just didn't go to college for coding. And he's like, they didn't care about any of that. They saw my projects and they thought my projects were fantastic. And he's like, I worked to make my project look, his website, I should probably mention he was a software engineer. He's like, I worked my butt off to make my project look like an absolutely functioning, well-rounded website, company, all of that. And I was able to get the interview. And what I thought was interesting in his interview was he had a bug in his program and he fixed it on the spot, right? Of course, I had to ask the obvious question, because I think I like ask how my brain would work. I'd put the bug in there intentionally and then how'd that get in there? And then fix the bug right there. Personally, I would do that. And please, anybody, go do that. That's a great idea. But what I took away from that was, the question is, can you get the interview? Now, that is going to take you being very good at marketing yourself and marketing your skill set and aligning your resume up to what the employer is asking. The flip side to that is, when you do get the interview, focusing on what you have done. And if you haven't worked anywhere, making sure that your projects are absolutely on point. Leave no stone unturned. Any question that you can foresee someone asking about your project, address it beforehand, right? That to me puts you in the best position, whether you went to a community college, whether you went to Flatiron School, Code Academy, it doesn't matter where you went. What have you done for me lately? That is the world that we live in. What have you done for me lately? What have you done lately? So when it comes to which option is best, that is a personal decision. Flatiron School is efficient. It's 15 weeks. If you can take 15 weeks full time, if you can do it part time, you should do it. But if not, you prefer to be more in a more traditional college setting, by all means, right? So I just wanted to take some time to address it. Anybody else have any, Maxwell and Kedasha, you both are career changers. And Eyamba, you went to Flatiron School. So anyone have anything to add to that in terms of, making yourself attractive to employers?
So I can start. Excellent point, Jelani. I think I like the fact that you started off by saying this is an individual decision. If you're looking for a career change, I also like the point you made around efficiency. Flatiron School is 15 weeks, puts you in a position to be able to go, get some tech, get into the industry. But at some point, you also have to recognize that you also want some level of growth in your career. So bear in mind that where you start off with Flatiron and the experience you get might not be all you need to be able to achieve certain goals you want in your career. However, the great thing about a Flatiron start is, as Kedasha said, you get some of that box in, right? And once you're much more financially, liquid, you have a little bit of leeway, you can start to make this sort of like longer term decisions around how you want to invest in yourself in terms of education. So it's not a flat iron and stop, right? It's more of a journey, but Flatiron, it definitely is a good way. And other boot camps as well is a good way to get your foot in the door. But once you're in there, you also have to have that growth mindset that, you know, if I want to do XYZ, I may need to go get other sort of education, because just to end on this phrase, always think of who's my competition. That's it, right? So you're in the door, but who else is going for that product manager role against you? And we've already talked about we're hustlers, we can do these gigs, but at some point you're not going to be in the room when these decisions are being made. Folks are going to pick up papers, they're going to say, Jelani is awesome. He went to this, you know, Flatiron boot camp. He can definitely do this. But then there's this other guy who has X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and that might not give you what you're looking for. So I just want to reiterate, I really like what you said, Jelani. It's an individual decision. Flatiron and other boot camps gives you a way in the door, gets you in that financial position that you want to be in with some good leeway. But if you're looking for growth, you may need to make other sort of like evaluations about how to invest in your career to get, you know, other forms of education.
Yeah.
Over to you, Kedasha.
Oh, I was just like, yep. It's almost like he's over here convincing me to go back to school. No. I was just gonna add yes to everything Jelani and Eyamba said. And my take on this is, if you've already gone to college and you have professional work experience and you want to change your careers and you want to do it fast, go to a boot camp. If you've never been to college and you want to get into the tech industry, that was a great time to think about going to college. But if you don't want to go to college, you don't have to, because college is not for everyone. And in tech, we learn skills, and skills, that's the job that we do. And those are the things that we do to be successful in our roles. So, and do you think about the competition? Because the competition is stiff in the tech industry. So it's just like, okay, how much time am I willing to invest at this point in my life to make the career change that I want? That's one of the questions I had to ask myself, and I was just like, not a lot of time. So I went to boot camp because I really just wanted to accelerate that transition. But it's really important for you to take a step back and sit within yourself and say, okay, why do I want to make this change? How much time do I want to invest into making this change? How much money do I have to invest into making this change? Because boot camps are expensive, okay? Flatiron School is not free, okay? It is expensive. It is expensive. And so, like, how much money do you want to invest into doing this? Because it's a real commitment, because you're gonna have to either quit your job, work part-time, or like work full-time and work part-time in a boot camp. And that is a lot. And even if you do work full-time and part-time in a college, that's also a lot. And so, like, you really have to understand like your why and your reasoning for wanting to make this transition. Is a college degree great to have? Yes. Is a boot camp a great experience? It can be, yes. It's just a matter of like, how much time do you have and what you want to invest.
Absolutely.
And if I can add on to that too, it's just, yeah, just with what the other two said before, it's just, think long. It's about thinking long and hard about what you're willing to do. Because with tech, especially these days, and like it's actually beneficial back in 2021, and this year, it's even in news channels are just saying degrees aren't necessary, are not really necessary for tech or like some other fields. But the one thing me personally, I did personal research on these programs to see if they're legit or not. Because I'm thinking like, wait, it's like another pyramid scheme, what's going on? But it's hard to believe, because we're conditioned from day one to go to school, or if we're lucky, get into an Ivy League school. And for some people who can't like do regular schooling, it's just either they can't afford it, they don't have the resources, or they just don't process information like that. It's a bit difficult. So with tech, it's just, especially in cybersecurity and every other field in IT, it's always knowing about what's going on, keeping up to date about the certain trends. And also having the discipline of, hey, you might have to read a news channel about, like, for cyber news or threatpost.com about the things that just popped up recently, because I didn't even really know about what really ransomware was until like a few years ago. So it's just knowing the right people, and also knowing, I can't even think right now, but knowing about like what programs are going to be legit or not, because nowadays, and I've had people in the IT world before I even started telling me that you don't really need a degree, but it matters what certification or what program you're going out there, because there's certifications everywhere. But nowadays, it's also about length, how long you're willing to commit, because in about 3 to 4 months, you're going to be like learning something that most people learn in 4 years. So yeah, so that's one thing to consider too. And also knowing about the price tag, and knowing that a 6-figure price tag for an education doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a job or get something that you like, something stable.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I had to learn.
That's exactly it. It's either way, there's no guarantees. That's really where it comes down to. It's like either way, we can listen, all these boot camps, ours included, can give you everything that we can give you. We can give you you don't know anything. All right, cool. We'll take you from not knowing anything to being a working professional in the tech space. If you know a little something and you have some decent experience, we can elevate your career to a different level. We can do all of that stuff, but we only come 50% of the way. You have to come the other 50. And the other thing is like, it's circumstantial. So if the circumstances are right and right for you to actually do this right now, that's fantastic. Like someone in the chat, I was monitoring the chat. Someone said, hold on, I work full time. I'm a mom to special needs children. And I'm in a boot camp right now and I'm always tired, but I know it's all worth it. Like that's for this person, those circumstances felt right for them to jump into the boot camp. I think we're just gonna add a bunch of other questions, but I think the chat is lively right now. So I like to take advantage of that. So I'm gonna pull some questions from the chat. Keep sending them in.
There are like 3 in that Q&A box too.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well. Do you think it's possible to work full time and attend Flatiron School full time? If just Kedasha's face right there is it? I would highly discourage it. Now, because of the way you positioned the question, you said possible. Yes. Has someone done it before? Yes. That person was a machine. I don't know how he did it. I'm not even going to encourage it by talking about it, but please don't do that.
Let me just say, don't do it. Don't. I tried working full-time and going to boot camp part-time, and that was so stressful. I can't imagine having to work full-time and having to go to school part-time, because a boot camp is called a boot camp because it is intense, it is fast, and it is meant to ramp you up really quickly.
Yep.
And if you're trying to focus on making sure that you submitted that report at your job, and also making sure that you completed this project that's due at the end of the night, don't do it. The stress is not worth it.
You heard it first from someone that tried to do it. Someone asked about, real quick, somebody asked about the podcast. I'm just putting it in there. That's the playlist to the podcast. But who's going to talk? Max?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. Well, I'm not trying to one-up anyone here. I did go to school full time, but I made the horrific mistake of working 3 jobs at the same time. It is possible, but I really don't recommend it. But it's just, that's how much I wanted out of my current situation. But the side effects of anxiety, maybe like a possible mental breakdown, it's just like she said, it is a literal boot camp. It's not for advertising. You get a lot of information thrown at you every single day.
Yeah.
And I don't like, it's just something, if you're going to be doing something, this is coming from all 4 of us. It's just, if you're going to be doing something like that, if you're going to be doing a boot camp, especially something like this, if you're working full time, just tell them that you just want to go part time for a few months. And yeah, it's just, it's just one thing I don't recommend, and I think I speak for all four of us, and we say like just make sure you have time and breathing room because you're going to be having a lot of questions in this short amount of time.
Yeah, 100%. This is an interesting question. Eyamba, I haven't heard from you yet, so I'm gonna bring it to you. What were some things you wish you knew going into the boot camp? Is there anything that you would change?
Interesting. I think it was probably the time commitment. And that has been sort of alluded to from the previous panelists. It is a lot of work. And I did have some previous coding experience and obviously a technical background. So I could sort of, manage certain things because most of the concepts weren't completely new to me. But I definitely realized that I somewhat miscalibrated the time commitment. And it's been a while since I took on the bootcamp. But I really love Maxwell's point. I wanted it. I wanted to know what was in that black box. Because I feel, so if I come here and I speak in a lot of technique, in a lot of technical language, and then I walk out with $250,000, like I probably have said like the easiest thing that you could understand and have a conversation with me. But because you don't understand what you're talking about, you miss out on opportunities. So I wanted to get that knowledge and I was willing to make that time commitment. I must also confess that at the time I didn't have like I didn't have a family at that point. So I had a little bit more free time. Just want to put that in there because I know all situations are not the same. But it's about that decision, right? I also know, if I recall, I think Flatiron still has a part-time program, right? That could folks who are working could sort of adopt that. And maybe that might make the load a lot lighter. So time commitments for sure is the thing that quickly comes to mind.
Yeah. And we definitely have scholarships. I'll throw the scholarships in the chat, but Kedasha, thanks for throwing that in the chat too. Is there anything, you went to a different boot camp, anything you wish you knew going in that you would tell someone, listen, look out for this or consider this before joining?
I would say the only thing I wish I knew before the bootcamp was about like what code challenges were. Like I don't talk about the bootcamp I went to, so please don't ask. I remember when I was in the bootcamp, they would send out these morning challenges, like code challenges, and I didn't know what it was, so I didn't even look at the email because nobody told us about it. And then like when I was starting to interview, I realized, oh shoot, that's what that was. So I wish I paid attention more or like asked questions a lot earlier. I also wish I took advantage of the one-on-one time with the technical mentors. So like the people that were more senior to me, I wish I took advantage of their knowledge more and asked them more questions. And I wish I didn't cry so much by myself instead of reaching out for help. Because when I was learning JavaScript, I cried so much because it was so difficult to learn. So I wish I really took the time to say, hey, I'm really struggling. Can you please help me to decode what this language is trying to do? Because I don't get it. I also wish I knew that it's important to make friends and just work with other people, because a lot of engineering is working with others and knowing how to communicate your code. And a bootcamp is a great opportunity for you to get to know how to do that. So those are some things I wish I had done differently.
Just to answer one question real quick, someone saying they applied to the Deloitte internship. And any panelists know anyone who completed it and found a job. If you're talking about the Deloitte internship in particular, no, because that's still taking applications. But if you're talking about cybersecurity in general, my man Max right here just is a grad from our cyber program who found a job. But Max, coming to you with this, is there anything that you wish you knew going in, and anything you would tell like somebody about to join the cyber program, thinking about it, any advice you would give them going in?
Understand that it's just that instead of trying to get all the information all at once, especially first going in, take your time, read one section, understand that section, and go to the next section. It's just like it's all brick by brick. It's a brick by brick process, and again, in the boot camp, it's kind of hard to do that. But learning time management and knowing when, just like, okay, I got this down. Let's not rush into the next video. If I didn't understand something, go back. If you have the day to do it, if you got the time to do it, just go back. Don't rush anything. If you can help it. And especially and on your off time, when your head's not fried from all the information that you learned in in a few hours, just go on YouTube and watch like other resources. Other resources, like there's this guy that I used to watch all the time called Network Chuck. If anyone's heard of that guy. Great guy. It's pretty much like a millennial Bill Nye the Science Guy for tech stuff. And he's funny, he's fun to watch. And it's just like certain things, like if you don't know the answer with the curriculum, let Google be your BFF. Like help you find other way. If you don't understand how to say it in the detail, in the source detail, find a source that can explain it in a way that you can understand it. Even if it's like graphics. Like don't think you just have to rely on the course material provided there, because maybe there's something that you overlook that is hard to see, and maybe like someone else can explain it to you on a YouTube video or on like an external resource, and maybe you'll be able to find a solution there.
Yeah, I love that. YouTube University, that's my favorite college. So someone asked, this is a good question. This one is basically for you, Max, and Eyamba, because you guys went to Flatiron School. Is there, Eyamba, I'll start with you. Is there any reason, and we're coming up against time, so I'm gonna try to speed through these, but is there any reason you chose Flatiron School maybe over another boot camp?
Honestly, I think I looked at the curriculum and it looked to cover the aspects of data science I was interested in. And honestly, when I searched for it, I also liked I don't know if you still do this, I also like the money back guarantee. I wasn't actively looking for a job, but that was like a huge selling point that, Flatiron would help me find a job when I was done, if I wanted to find a job. So I think if you guys still do that, that was a huge selling point. No? Oh, okay. Well, at the time it was. So
yeah. We ain't gotta know more. Max, was that your reason too?
I second what he said. It's just the help like on building yourself a brand and help like promote yourself in the right way, so people like recruiters or people that you know can say, okay, this is what I'm about. And the curriculum was another reason. It was just like, it wasn't just like, oh, we're just gonna be doing this class, that class, and this, and then yay. No, it gives you an overview. Yeah, I'm sorry. But it got into the nitty gritty about the basics, and it got towards the end, it got into the advanced parts. But it was like they opened the door for you, but you have to walk through it. It gives you a great foundation, but afterwards they encourage you go get that CompTIA, start learning, go on Udemy, use other resources. This is just a start. Even while you're doing your job search, always continue to learn. And I saw that in the reviews, and I saw that with how they presented themselves in the first day. I'm like, okay, all right, I see where they're going with this, because they're like, this is not the end all be all, which is something which is funny enough, because universities say, oh, you got your degree, congratulations, it's over. You don't have to learn no more. And I see in boot camps, they're like, you're not done. You're nowhere near done.
Yeah.
So keep going. It doesn't have to be CompTIA, but get a certification. Like, for example, I just got my certification from a website called tryhackme.com on cyber defense, and I'm going on my next certification for a junior pen tester. And
nice.
Again, if you can't understand the details or or anything on the site, go find an external resource that simplifies it for you, so you can help you get that certification or to understand everything in the details of what you're learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I second that. Like you come to Flatiron School, any boot camp, doesn't matter. You have made like a declaration, you have signed a contract that you are now officially going to be a lifelong learner. That's what it really is. You're signing a contract to be a lifelong learner. And we are just your first start. And we're teaching you how to learn this very difficult material. You'll be able to apply the same principles of learning that you did in the beginning of your career to any piece of material that you need to. So people, when they leave a bootcamp experience, are usually very, very good at figuring things out. And guess who likes people that figure things out? Employers, for sure. So this question, I think we'll probably leave on this one. Best networking advice for people transitioning into tech. Kedasha, I'm gonna come to you first with this, and that's because I'm gonna come to you first on this. And here's the reason why I'm gonna come to you first on this. Because you got your first job out of tech, into tech by networking, by going to that conference. So please, I would love for you if you could just talk about that story, because that's a great story.
Yes, I was hired at a conference. The conference is called the Grace Hopper Conference, and it's a conference for female technologists to be connected to other female technologists, but also to be connected to employers. Employers are hungrily there, and they're looking for entry-level talent and female talent. And if you're a woman on the call and you're in a boot camp, or you want to pursue tech, they have scholarships available. That's how I was able to attend. So look up the Grace Hopper Conference and just register for the wait list for the scholarship, so you can be notified and apply for that scholarship, because it's expensive to go to that conference. So yes, I was hired at a conference, and so I like to tell people, and even before that, while I was learning in boot camp, I was tweeting. I constantly tweeted what I was learning, and because I was tweeting so much, I got connected to a lot of really good and senior technical talent. And a lot of times they would jump on a call with me on Zoom, like at night, to help me with my homework. And it was amazing. I love to tell junior developers, like, get on Twitter. If you don't have any other social media, Twitter is like a low effort way to kind of like browse and kind of like see what's happening in tech. And lately I've noticed like a new wave of technologists doing what they call like spaces, Twitter spaces, where they share their experience in tech. They also give out a lot of free advice. They offer referrals. They connect you with jobs. And so you can definitely get hired from Twitter. And so Twitter is a great place to be. Another place to look for networking is to join niche groups specifically for people of color and Black people. Black Tech Pipeline is a great group to join. There's another one called Diversify Tech. There's another one called Higher Tech Ladies. And of course, there is Baddies in Tech. Baddies in Tech is excellent. And Career Karma is another great one. I see Career Karma going in the chat. Yeah, I love Career Karma because it's 100% free. And it teaches you about the roles in tech, and also like what path can possibly fit for you. Because sometimes it can be hard to figure out what you want to do and all that jazz. But yeah, networking, it's difficult, but just send the message. Google how to reach out to people on LinkedIn. You're gonna go on a blog and you're gonna see like a snippet of like a little template. Copy that template, pop it in the Google Doc, go on LinkedIn, look for people who have jobs that you want, put their names in the template, send the message, okay? Send it, don't wait, send it. Do not wait, no wait for nobody, because if you send 10 messages and like 3 people respond, that's 3 connections you have that you didn't have before. And when you meet those 3 people, ask them for the names of 3 other people that you can meet, and keep it going.
Oh,
that was a mouthful, but
oh, I love it. I love it. Maxwell, networking. Talk to me. You talked about networking a lot. What's your best networking advice for people transitioning into tech?
Honestly, like online is great. Online is all well and good. And I mean, I do it. And I'm actually, thanks for the reminder. I actually had to get a new Twitter. But nightlife, like with me, like again, I got my opportunities in the nightlife scene. And my advice is don't just back something off because you don't think that you're gonna get an opportunity in that particular spot. Because like this, it didn't really happen with a span of luck. I just surrounded myself with the right people. Like it's just most people, especially in the nightlife scene, they like that's their off time. You'll probably meet some of the most high rolling people on the planet. And you wouldn't even know it. And it's just knowing, also not being afraid to just be honest about what you want to do, about what you represent. It's not just about limited to the nightlife scene. Just say, hey, how's it going? My name is so and so, and this is what I represent. It's just all, and it's a real, as a fellow introvert, it freaks me out every time I even went up to someone to say hi, or God forbid, make a text, send a message to anybody. But it's just knowing that you had to put yourself out there to a certain extent, because I mean, my opportunity came from some of the most eccentric ways possible. I got my first opportunity to work in the nightlife scene through an Uber ride. I was giving a guy an Uber ride to a bar, and it just built from that. And it may not exactly be exactly what you want to do, but it's going to be closely related to what you want to do. So your connection may not be exactly what you wanted, but it's going to be closely related to what you're trying to achieve. And you never know, something even greater might come up. So my advice is just keep an open mind and just don't be afraid to kind of like not exactly change course, but kind of tweak what your passions and goals might come to mind at the end of the day, because you never know what hidden talents that you may have.
Agreed. 100% agree. Eyamba, finish us out. Networking advice for folks transitioning into tech. What do you think?
Sure. First of all, Kedasha and Maxwell covered a ton of all the material already, and I'm sure if you took notes when they spoke, you have a good enough platform to start off. For me, I always say don't minimize any interaction. Everyone you talk to, just be generally inquisitive, be nice, communicate with people about your passions. You never know. It could be in the grocery store, having a conversation with someone, talk about a boot camp. They're like, oh, I do this. Connections can come out of there. Right now, there's a chat going with 72 people. I can bet that if you connect with 5 people on this chat, those would lead to at least 15 connections that you can, grow your network, right? So utilize every opportunity. Personally, I use LinkedIn for my connection. My wife uses Slack. She swears by Slack, and that's great. LinkedIn just works for me because of how I think and some of the information I've picked up. So I'm not going to spend, if you spare me 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to talk about a different aspect of networking.
Sure.
I would encourage everyone to think about packaging yourself. When you reach out to someone, why should someone accept your connection request, right? Why should someone who you're reaching out in tech, who has never met you, accept and spend your time connecting with you? Now, as a Black person, yes, there's that incentive to always want to help, to always want to connect and bring each other up. But like I talked about, there are opportunities even outside of the Black community. And if you're reaching out to someone who is, very different from who you are, why should that person, want to connect and sort of interact with you? So the skill of packaging yourself is very important. So for example, Maxwell talked about, he was in nightlife, right? If you're building a LinkedIn profile, would you say I was a nightlife or as a DJ? You could probably say I was an entertainment specialist, right? Now, someone thinks here's an entertainment specialist. They're like, okay, sounds like something that, what's that? Gets them curious. They want to talk to you. They want to learn. They want to jump on Zoom. So packaging yourself communicates value to other people that you want to network with. And so spending some time to do that, taking the time to take a professional photograph. My wife told me my initial photograph on LinkedIn looked She used a very interesting word that I should change that. So I went and took a different photograph, and like I didn't want to. I did it kicking and screaming, but there's value in that, right?
Mhm.
In writing up your profile, whatever experience you have, whatever it is, I don't care, from what you consider as very low or to being an executive director. It's about how you package it and tell a story around it, right? Even if, for example, you say, well, I was a janitor for 45 years, I'd say, well, I was a health specialist that was responsible for, remediating viruses. And, there are ways you can put sort of like those feelers out there that make people in the sectors want to connect and interact with you because you sound interesting. So doing that will obviously ease your networking experience, and just reach out to people, be nice, work hard, and good things happen to good people. So that's pretty much all I can say.
Yeah, I'll just add one last thing too, is because I think the point about packaging yourself is really important. Come with value, right? Like seek to provide value as well. I think the worst thing that kind of annoys me as somebody who, my background's in nonprofit. Like I used to work in nonprofit for a while, been in mentorship for like, I don't even know how many years now. Like I already have like a group of mentees that I provide a lot of value to, not expecting a ton back because of they're in high school. My value is in seeing them grow and be the best that they could be. So when people reach out and it's almost like they have their hand out, it's like that doesn't feel like a valuable relationship off the rip, right? So I think obviously coming into a relationship knowing that you want some type of connection, value from a person is fine, but also seeking to be of value is incredibly helpful too. And I just think that's something mutually beneficial. Exactly, Natasha. Exactly. So with that being said, thank you so much to my esteemed guests, Max, Kedasha, Eyamba. This has been fantastic. Season 6, what am I calling it? Episode 6, Black Excellence in Tech 6. I'll just call it that. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you guys for all the warm appreciation for the show. Please connect with us. This was so much fun. Got a lot of information. I hope this inspires you guys to potentially jump into tech or pursue your passions. That's what this is really about. Pursue your passions, and feel free to connect with me, talk to me on LinkedIn. I'm all here. With that being said, you can reach out to Flatiron School, flatironschool.com if you want to join, talk with an admissions person. We'll send it all in a follow-up email. And with that, we are out. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Peace.